All right, it is 4:30. I am going to give this really about 1 minute and I'm going to start. I did put in the chat that this is going to be recorded and emailed out next week from me. So just in case you have more people that want to be on the webinar or want to see the information that's going out next week, hopefully with the Demosphere webinar attached as well. So I have unmuted everybody, so if you can go ahead and mute yourself unless you have a question as we're going through, then feel free to unmute and ask. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to run through, and then we'll stop for some questions and so on throughout it. But hopefully this gives you guys a good oversight. So I'm going to give about 30 more seconds, and then we are going to get this thing started. Alrighty, we'll have people joining in, I'm sure, as we go through, but just hope everyone is doing well and staying happy and safe and healthy. We are, my family, at least here in Kansas City, is, so that's definitely a positive for us, but definitely hard times, and so just wanted to come in and give a little bit of an update to what was sent out last Friday as well as what I sent out on Monday. Hope is that we don't go any longer than a half hour. I would say if your questions are geared specifically towards situations in context within your own club, that you reach out to me and we set up a separate time outside of this call. So again, though, hopefully I can clarify some of the information and hopefully give you a better picture of what's going on now, and then a little bit about fall, just touching on that topic. So without further ado, see if my clicker will work. Okay, so some clarity on what the soccer calendar is, because I'm getting a lot of questions, and hopefully this provides a little bit of background to how we bill and what we do. So when it comes to the calendar, I'm going to pause this real quick, make sure we don't go too far. The calendar for U.S. soccer and U.S. youth specifically is actually September 1st through August 31st. Oh, it's going, and come on, back up. My slides are not working. Let's just stay where we're at, guys. Okay, hopefully we stay here good. So this has no relation to age group formation. So when we talk seasonal year, we're talking September 1 through August 31st. That is when your passes and your rosters are technically valid, and it's valid for the entire seasonal year. That's why when you have players that register in the fall, they're still your player. Even if you set up a fall and spring registration, we see it as U.S. Youth and as a state association as one full year. That means you don't necessarily have to re-register players. So I know I've got some questions about, I have kids from the fall, so specifically high school players that want to come back and play this summer in some of the events we put out. They're still your player. They don't need to re-register. So those passes, those rosters are still technically valid from the last fall season. Now, where we get a little bit in the gray is August. So August is technically considered in the seasonal year we are right now. However, most U.S. youth states do allow you to use rosters and passes that are for the next seasonal year during that period. It's just kind of that unspoken agreement, just knowing how the school year works and so on, that typically in August we will allow you to use rosters and passes from the next seasonal year, though they're technically not valid until September 1. So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity on what the seasonal soccer calendar looks like, and then how that relates to the passes and the rosters that you use. So how does this fill into the membership billing? So what's included in membership billing? There's an annual club affiliation fee, your annual player and coach membership, your annual select team fees, and then player transfers and multiple registration for those membership fees come into that. So our intention is to quarterly invoice you for membership. I want to make sure this stays. Come on, nope, going ahead again. We want to make sure that we're regularly billing you. And so that's been the intention over the last couple years. And this particular cycle, the fall 2019 into the spring 2020, we had a mid-September billing, that's already completed, and the mid-December billing, and that is completed. You've already received those invoices and likely paid them. Those are a majority of your fall players. The intention was a April billing, and then at the end of the year, typically the beginning of August, a reconciliation of the full seasonal cycle, you're getting billed. Well, as you know, we skipped mid-April, so there are no invoices out. There's no membership fees for players, coaches, and that long list above that are to you right now. It's really at a hold and a standstill. And with the current return to play date, it's going to be crucial that we all understand what we need to do in the US Soccer Connect platform to ensure there's proper billing at the end of the seasonal year. So if you haven't heard, the return to play date right now is May 26th for Iowa Soccer. So what does that mean as we come to playing? So the late spring and summer season really should only have players and coaches that are registered and confirmed in your platform participating. We do not need players and coaches that have not gone through all the proper protocols to be on the field. Again, anybody that played in the fall, I can't get this to work right. Anybody that played in the fall is still eligible to be on your rosters and passes. They don't necessarily have to re-register because they should already be in confirmed status and you've already paid their membership fee. This includes friendlies, tournaments, any trainings that you do. We really want to make sure we're following all the normal protocols for anything summer and into the late spring. Again, reminder, this is going all the way really through the end of July. That's kind of how we picture that date of July 31st is truly how the end of the current player passes and rosters expire. Again, all of those risk management guidelines must be followed, so don't forget about that. The one thing that we did release is that the player transfer fee would be waived for players that are moving from a non-participating club to a participating club. The reason we're doing that is the spirit of the game. We want as many players participating as possible if it's at all possible. This, though, is not to be used as a recruiting rule. We will make that clear in those situations where we know it's going from a player that's a non-participating to a participating, and it's really at the end of the day just trying to see if we can gather enough players in a similar geography to be able to play. We'll make sure that's clear. You as the releasing club, if you decide not to have any summer season, I will still come to you and make sure you know and you get the ultimate approval to still have that player transfer. So hopefully that's clear. This is just applicable to this seasonal year and just during this time frame. I don't see this extending into 2020, 2021, but that's just a specific little thing we've done at this time. Just a quick reminder, bid day typically comes before our seasonal year ends. This has never been different, so this has always been the same. However, we do have more events that are right now on the calendar for July. So for clarity, the bid day is before your current seasonal year ends, but that acceptance for those select players on your teams is for the next seasonal year. So anything that happens in July, any events you go to, if a player is coming from a different club, that is technically still a guest player and you still need to follow all guest player protocols. So if there's any questions on that piece as we start getting towards tryouts and questions regarding tryouts, and that information is coming out in the coming weeks, don't hesitate to reach out to me, but I want to make sure that is clear for everybody. The rejection process and the importance of the rejection process is because it really comes down to billing and it comes down to insurance and liability, and we want to make sure the players that are in our system as confirmed players are players that have stepped onto the field. That could be for one practice, that could be for one match, but it's anybody that stepped onto your field representing your club. So what does that mean? When it comes to billing in August, when I do the reconciliation, assuming our returning to play date happens this summer, players that are rejected, you would not be billed for. So new players, just for spring. Again, you were billed for the fall players. So if they're playing this spring, you're not billed again. It's only for the new players this spring to your club. If you anticipate they're going to play through the end of July 31st, whether you've done a survey or you're individually reaching out or however your club has decided to handle that process of figuring out who wants to play, they need to remain in confirmed status. Again, it gets the insurance, it gets the liability, making sure we're all covered. If they are not going to play, if you've decided to cancel or they're telling you, hey, we're not playing this summer, they need to become in reject status. So what does that look like in US Soccer Connect? The biggest thing is that when you go to their financial information, and I've given you some step-by-step directions, this is really the final part and the most crucial. you have a player, and underneath their player name is confirmed or rejected, the 2 radio buttons on the left with the red circle. You have to make sure the button now says reject it, and you click update status button. Just clicking reject it's not going to get it done. Make sure you hit update status. Now, if you have any fees that you've collected in the platform, the account balance will turn into a negative and appear as though there's a refund. You as a club do have the ability to refund and track refunds, both credit card and check in here. If you're using Stack, you can reach out to them for assistance on bulk refunding. That was a harder word than I thought. But I just want to make sure that's very clear that the refund piece, that's on you guys. Whatever process you're going with, whatever you're dealing or not dealing out with refunds, that's really on you guys to decide. But in regards to reject and confirm status, that is crucial to when we decide we're going to bill and who you get billed for. And we always can provide that report of who you're actually getting billed for, so you have that clarity and transparency as well. So huge step I want to make sure is really important on where that happens within the platform. You do have to do it individually just to make sure you're doing it accurately. Okay, coach registration's final piece, and then I'll open it up for questions. Do not do anything with them yet. There's a lot of pieces when we talk about the transition to Demosphere that we do not want coaches getting rejected yet. We really want to stay them in confirmed status so that we can get all the information we need to put them into Demosphere. There will be more information regarding the confirm reject status in the coming weeks, and we'll get in touch with you guys once we have that finalized. So right now, if you have any questions, I'm going to hold just specifically regarding spring, summer, and registration. And so if anybody's got some questions, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Candace?
Yes?
What is the easiest way to find all of the new players in US Stack Sports?
If you've created a spring registration, my best bet for you is to create the spring registration report and then sort by probably your registration date, or I can provide a history report to you. That typically, I know that report isn't the best in terms of trying to compare your fall to spring. The other ways that I've had people do it is pull their fall and spring and then make comparisons there and remove duplicates. But at the same time, it's not the easiest. The other thing I can do for you, Kendall, is I can actually provide a report right now of who I'd be charging you for to give you that information of who specifically knew. So if that's something you guys are doing, I know if you used your fall registration, that's actually a much easier way because you're just going to see all of your unassigned kids because those are the new players from spring if you used your fall registration. So it just really depends on what area you went to, but I'm happy to provide help and assistance to identify those players if you need it.
I was going to say, we just had one registration event, and then I charged the fees onto all the players from the fall. So all they had to do is pay the fee for the spring. But I've already assigned all those kids that were new to our spring are already on the teams. I mean, I'd already built all of our teams.
Yep.
And
so you should be able to pull a report by the registration date. That would probably give you your best bet in terms of registration date, because that'll give you the new window of kids that registered the earliest in the spring. And we can look at it specifically, Kendall. I'm happy to work with you and help pull a report and see what we can figure out. And again, I can always pull what I would bill you right now. So, okay?
Okay.
Anybody other questions right now regarding spring, summer?
When do you need players rejected by?
That's the magical question. So right now, as of right now, ideally you need to do it by the end of July, because I typically pull the data August 1, excuse me, to make sure that I can correctly get everybody. Traditionally, we do actually have new players registering or player transfers at the end of July. So everything needs to be clean in your system by July 31st.
Okay, and this would only apply to rec and academy, right? Because select is annual, or am I misunderstanding?
This applies to all your players. Okay. So your select players who played in the fall, you're not rejecting them. So anybody that played in the fall should stay in confirmed. These would only be new players that were signed up for the spring and never stepped foot onto the field.
Gotcha.
So we have a question. So when is the date that we need to have the players staying with the club to change their status? That was July 31st. Since you mentioned coaches need to stay, so they transfer. So I think I answered that question, Brian. I'm happy to talk if there's something I'm missing. But July 31st is kind of that ultimate, and that's no different than any other seasonal year. All right. Any other questions regarding registration spring and summer?
Candace, this is Nikki in Fort Dodge.
Yeah, how are you?
Good. Our club had kind of discussed rejecting the new spring players and refunding all players and then setting up a new summer registration.
Okay.
If we reject those kids, would they still be able to go into the new summer and show up?
Yeah, as long as your registration's a new event. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's also another way of doing it. And I think that's really, it comes down to what does your club, how are you guys managing this? What makes sense for your financial? What makes sense for your organization? And I'm happy to kind of talk out scenarios. I've already done it with a couple of clubs to try to figure out what's best for you. So don't hesitate to reach out and we can talk through things. All right. Okay, well, if you have any other specific questions regarding your club, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I see one more chat, just make sure. Will there be a partial refund for them? So that would be on you. If you had a fee that covers fall and spring, that fee that parents pay to you, that's on you to decide refund wise. Our fee is always the annual membership fee for players and coaches, that range of $10.50 to $15.50. Those are always annual fees. So there's never a refund or a prorate for that. And that actually comes down within our cost to insurance and more. Okay. One more. So for rec, we would reject any players not playing spring regardless if they played. So yes, if you have a fall event and you set up a spring event separately, you can technically reject all of those players because the fall is a confirmed status player. So we know that. So again, there's a handful of scenarios. The biggest thing we really want to focus on is new spring kids. So again, reach out to me if you have questions on how you structured yours and what does that mean for each piece and part for each program, Rec Academy, and Select. Happy to walk through all those scenarios. So for the sake of time, I am going to move on to Demisphere and what is happening next with Demisphere. So, oh, my slides don't want to move here, but they would move there. Okay, it's begun. Demisphere 2020-21 transition has started. For us at Iowa Soccer, we have a dashboard. We're digging in. We're doing trainings. We're preparing for the fall season. You should have gotten a call from Demisphere. Hopefully, you've had some trainings or at least a discussion with them. If there's something that you haven't received from Demisphere or you haven't got a chance to see the platform, let's talk and give you an option and an opportunity to connect with Demisphere. It is the platform we are using for fall 2020, spring 2021. Okay, that's a done deal at this point in time. So we've done a few things. There's an import, one of two we intend on doing as players and coaches from the 2019 and 2020 season. So it's done. The data is in Demisphere. We do intend on doing another set of data mid to late June. The hope and reality of what this information really is just an ability to have a record of players and coaches. It does not include teams. It's more of a starting point so that we don't necessarily always have to go back into our US Soccer Connect platform in order to get that information about 1920. What you should know is that your current US Soccer Connect platform, you do have access, even if you're changing to a different solution, including Demisphere, you have access to the current platform through December 31st of 2020. So you have time. You have time to access the reports. You have time to access the documents. You have the ability to go into that platform through the end of the year. I have confirmed that. So what was imported? We have player and family data, we have age verification status, and we have coach and staff information, just the basics. Trying to put coaches and players together that are family maybe, and trying to create some early family accounts. Not major information, but what was not imported is really crucial and things you need to know. No teams. As I said before, it's really the basics. Who are the players? Who are the coaches with Iowa Soccer? No documents. And this was something that we investigated with all platforms, but there was not a platform that existed that would allow the ability to import the actual physical documents. What does that mean? There are no photos for players or coaches, and there are no and there's no age verification documents, passports, birth certificates, anything that was uploaded and coach training, so concussion and safe support. None of the physical documents that have been uploaded were able to be imported into the platform. But as I just said, in US Soccer Connect, you do have the ability to go in and grab those materials as you need. You also have the ability within Demisphere, if you do the online registration platform, to require those documents now. That's something that is different from the US Soccer Connect. You actually have the ability to decide as your club if you want to require those, as well as the age verification status is coming. The biggest thing is if you have teams participating in fall 2020 ISCS, the Championship Series of State Cup and President's Cup, those birth certificates will need to be re-uploaded. So those are the most crucial, but that status that they've been age verified, I hope is a little bit of a shining light that you won't have to take on that extra work of age verifying players you had age verified already in the US Soccer Connect platform. If you have questions about that data, I'm happy to help. So what action steps? I outlined a little bit of this in the newsletter on Monday. First, you need to take a chance and demo the Demisphere Club solution. I've been on some webinars. I've had some conversations with you guys, and so far the feedback is really positive. If the feedback from you isn't so positive, I'd love to have a conversation offline and just hear what your thoughts are. Because again, we want to provide and partner with really, really good solutions. And we're excited about the direction Demisphere has gone with both us as a state association and you as a club. So again, reach out to sales@demisphere.com, or you can reach out to me and I can happily connect you. You do need to decide. You as a club need to decide what's your registration solution for fall 2020. The three options you have are no different than they were a couple years ago, and they're no different than they've been with Iowa Soccer for years. You can use our integrated solution, which for fall 2020 is Demisphere. Just like it was previously with the US Soccer Connect platform, you use Demisphere's club solution, you are integrated with your data into our state association, okay? You can manually insert your data. Those are when you go in and you type in your player information, you type in that team, and you really do it on your own. You'll have access at no additional charge to go in and manually type those players in. You can also import. Import, I'm still getting the final process. It likely will be similar to years past, where you will send the data into me, those records, and I will work to import them. The good news is that we've actually lowered the cost for this year compared to where we were importing for 1920. So it will be a 65 cents per record that will be charged and invoiced to your club for all records that you send in for us to import. Be aware that you don't have to send me every record. You could choose to manually put in some players and have us import. You could have us import an initial file, and then you can do some of the other stuff to try to save money. So I'm definitely happy to sit here and talk a little bit more offline about what options you have when it comes to it, but those are always your three options. Use the integrated product, manually type the data in, or import. So again, happy to talk about where your club's at and thinking for fall 2020, but you do need to decide in the coming weeks and within the next month. You need to train. If you're going to use Demisphere, we've got some webinars that happen this week. There's going to be some recorded ones that happened this week and previously that I'm going to include in an email communication early next week. That's also going to include this webinar. So train, we're training, you guys are training. We're all going to get hopefully this buttoned up here in the next 6 weeks, and then we'll be really, really ready for that fall 2020 season. But again, if you need assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to me. The email communication for Demisphere is support@demisphere.com, okay? And you can begin setting up your fall. I've had a lot of questions about should we, could we? The answer is could you? Yes. Should you? That's really up to you. Right now, our return to play date is May 26th. So anticipation is that we will have a fall season, and setting up and starting to get players excited, not the worst thing. Get coaches excited about coming back, not the worst thing. So yes, you can begin to set it up. I'm happy to help in whatever way I can, as well as getting Demisphere assisting you on the actual details. I'm still learning. I'm confident, but maybe not confident as I was 6 months to a year ago to make sure I can take you through perfectly and easily, but we're getting there. Hopefully in 6 months to a year, I'm much better at helping you guys out with that. But yes, you can set up your fall registration if you would like to. We're not ready for the coach registration part. Again, more details regarding the coach registration and what's happening for fall 2020 will be released in the coming weeks. So still collect your players, but the coach will take just a little bit longer. So I will stop there. This is really the end. The last 5 minutes I'd like to just take for questions if you have any regarding Demisphere or even anything regarding spring or summer that kind of hit your mind as I was talking.
And as far as the Demisphere, you mentioned on the one slide about the importing. If we plan on basically doing the same relationship we've already had, where we're using the platform that Iowa Soccer is providing, it sounds like you guys have already imported information. Do we need to worry about any kind of import thing, or is that pretty much all?
No, so what the hope is that when you, let's say, my son, Berkeley Fabry, is going to register for your club, the record from 1920, when I go in as a parent and I do the online registration and I pay your club fees, when that data comes into Iowa Soccer for the 2021 season, it's going to match that player up as somebody from the 2019-2020 season, as well then match that player up as the same kid that goes up into the National Data Center. So for us, it's really a record. It really won't impact too much from your guys' side. The biggest thing that it may help with is that age verification status piece. So it would happen more on the second end, that they would recognize that player as somebody that's already existed and age verified. Okay. Got a question in the chat. Even if you reject them. So I collected data at the beginning of March. So hopefully I collected or mid-March, excuse me. So hopefully I got a lot of your players that you had not rejected. It didn't happen to coincide with this whole suspension of play. It just happened to when I selected to do the import, which middle of March, I usually can gather as many of the players as possible. What we'll do is probably get something at the end of the June that, yeah, it will likely be missing players and not what we had hopefully intended to have as much into it. But there is the possibility that we can still collect that data of rejected. So don't get too caught up in it. I'd rather at the end of the day, we work to figure out records that exist in US Soccer Connect and I help you with that age verification than sending you a big bill in August of all these players that your club is trying to figure out how much you actually owe and don't. So I'd rather we do a little bit of administrative work that I can help you with than rather you guys get really upset about maybe a bill or financial pieces that, you know, we're all struggling with, including parents and clubs. Okay.
Candace, do you know the process for printing player cards? I know currently we have to go into Association Connect, which is US Soccer. Like, it seems like a third party again. Is that, do you know what the relationship there is going to look like?
From US Soccer Connect?
Yes.
So if you're using a Connect platform for fall 2020, that no longer will feed up into us. Your data will have to come into Demisphere. The way Demisphere is set up is there's no toggling between two different windows. Everything happens in one platform. So you should not have to go into a different one to access your players and your rosters and passes.
Okay.
Candace, this is Sonia. I have a really quick question.
Yeah.
Back to the Demisphere thing. So if a club decides not to go with Demisphere, do all players need to be imported? So like even your younger rec kids who just play inter-club, would those need, okay, so it's everyone.
Yep, all your registered players. Yep, just for the insurance and liability at the very most. Not all. There's other benefits, but at the very end of the day, anybody that gets hurt on your field,
that's how we get the insurances, having them uploaded to it. Perfect.
Yeah. So just a quick, so you guys know, when there's an insurance claim, I'm the one that has to go in and verify that you have a registered player and that it was in a sanctioned event. So that's why it's really crucial that I can see who's in your club and that you don't remove anybody who's not participating. Even if they get hurt on day one, keep them in that platform just to make sure everyone's covered and good to go.
And practices are considered sanctioned events.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
So Candace, so this is going to be very similar kind of to the transition from League One to US Soccer Connect, where if you stay with the platform that Iowa Soccer is changing over to, which in this case is Demisphere, you guys are basically covering the cost of using this system. Is that correct?
Yes, outside of your credit card processing fees, correct. Yeah.
So that's part of the advantage. So in other words, if we stayed with U.S. Soccer Connect, we would start having to pay for all those fees that we are not paying for right now.
You would pay any fee if you would choose to import. Then we would be charging you that. If you did the manual typing in your individual players and so on, there's no fee to that because the work is on you. So it would just still be the membership fee of the $10.50 to $15.50, that normal range. But the work really comes down to, if we import, we're going to invoice you for the work of the import. If you manually do the work, if you don't use the platform, you do the work, you're not getting charged any extra.
Okay, I guess I was just under the impression that you guys were covering a fee for actually using the system itself. That as long as we stayed with you guys, that we didn't have to pay that fee. You guys are taking care of that.
Correct.
But if all of a sudden now we break off and say we want to stay with the old system, you guys would no longer cover that fee, I'm assuming.
You would have your own fee structure with US Soccer Connect. Yes, you would cover that. So Demosphere, if you just went and used the Demosphere platform, they would be charging you fees because we're the state association and you're one of our clubs using it. There are fees that are removed from that we're essentially covering.
Last question I have. Yep. I haven't had a chance to watch any of the webinars or anything else. Mm-hmm. The transition from League One to US Soccer Connect was huge. I mean, that was a difficult transition. You went from League One, that was an extremely simple, maybe not a very good system, but at least it was extremely easy to use. US Soccer Connect, on the other hand, the setup for registration was a pretty lengthy process. Where does Demosphere fit kind of in that realm? Is it anywhere near as easy as League One? Is it as complicated as US Soccer Connect? Or does it fall somewhere in between all that?
I will give you my personal opinion that I believe it's more towards the League One, more middle of the road. So it has more complexities that it can offer you, similar to the US Soccer Connect with some options that League One did not give to you. However, I think the setup is a much cleaner, step A, step B, step C, step D. I will send out again, Kendall, those webinars from this past week. It's a recreational and a select, where the select has the ability to have payment plans and so on. Long story short, I will send it out to you so you can see firsthand yourself and then happily answer some questions. I know we've got some people in the chat telling you their perspective that it seems easier and better. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Tryouts and bid days. There was one. Oh, yep. Go ahead.
Back to one of Kendall's points, real quick. Sorry, this is Dan. Staying with the current system isn't really an option. They're actually discontinuing the current platform, so you can stay with Stack Sports, but it will be a different platform than you have now. So
yeah, I wasn't planning on staying with them anyway.
Okay.
I know, like in the past when we transitioned from League One over to US Stack Sports, it was possible to stay with the old system, but you were going to then pay your own cost.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify that staying status quo wasn't an option for anyone. We had to move to something.
Yeah,
different.
That's my understanding. Is because they merged companies or whatever it was that they decided.
I just wanted to clarify that. So, Candace,
which is ironic that they did that and they decided to get rid of that, because wasn't that supposed to be a centralized platform for every club, every league nationwide?
Yeah, that was the overall intention, but there's been a lot more progression over the last 12 months and even 18 months to open up different state association platforms that exist that can have clubs and leagues underneath it that can talk into the national data center much simpler than what had done before. So just some advancements in different ways that when Stack Sports bought Dick's Sporting Goods and the Blue Sombrero technology, that it offered us a chance to really look at what was going to happen, because everything was going to change no matter what. So there have been some things that I hope are easier from the last transition from League One to Stack, from now Stack to Demosphere, such as the age verification status, taking some of those and bringing them into Demosphere, where in the past we just had a complete clean slate. And then some of that coach information we're actually going to have coming in, where you're going to have expiration dates, safe sport expiration dates, concussion expiration dates. We're working on some of that stuff to come in, so it's not 100% a clean slate. It's actually data that is going to be useful and hopefully limit some of the time you guys have to take on your end. So.
Well, and I was just asking because I know, like, even setting up the forms, setting up each of the registration events, it's like I was just finally getting comfortable with US Stack Sports after 2 years of doing it, and it's just like, what? We got to change? And I guess that's my last question, or can I hold you guys to your answer on this? Will we be changing again very soon? You guys are killing me here. It's like,
you can't hold us to anything right now just because I don't know. But the very, very, very big hope is for my own very selfish mental health. Demisphere's got to work, and everything that I'm seeing and from what I'm talking to members that have gotten to see it, and there's other state associations doing the same thing as us, going from Demisphere or going from Stack to Demisphere, are all very, very happy with the transition and what it's going to look like and the ease in which the platform actually operates. And Kendall, here's the biggest thing I can tell you, and I've told this to a lot of other people. Every single demonstration I did over the last 12 to 18 months to figure out where we were headed with not just me, our staff involved, Demisphere was the only platform that every single button you hit worked and showed you exactly what you were supposed to see, and it took you exactly to the page you were supposed to see. So my absolute let's get it done, let's go to Demisphere and hopefully not have the headaches that we've had over the last 12 months. So just very quickly, I want to make sure there's 2 questions now. Tryouts and bid days affected. That information is going to start coming out soon from more of the competitions department about what that's going to look like. The process is going to be similar regardless of when those actual things occur, those dates. There will still be a tryout window and there will still be a bid date, and you will notify parents of those teams, and they'll have the ability to accept or decline in whatever platform you've chosen or whatever method you choose to notify. The other question we had is, do we need to let Stack know club by club if we are going with Demisphere? And the answer is yes. You as a club signed an agreement. It should not be a contract. It was an agreement to use the technology. You simply need to let the person at Stack who's probably reaching out to you and wanting to show you their platform, letting them know that you're going to go with Demisphere. I'm happy to connect those dots as well for you. There should be no financial issue for you to go, and no financial penalties for you to go. So let us know if there's any issues when it comes down to all of that.
so then do we also need to let you know officially that we're going to go with you guys in Demisphere and move and all that transition?
Don't have to. I get that information readily from Demisphere, but I'm happy to hear that if that's what you choose. So
The only reason I'm asking is I tried to reach out to the person that reached out to me from Demisphere, and I haven't even heard back from her. So I don't know.
I'll connect you guys after the call here. Okay, Kendall?
Okay.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're a little over a half hour. I don't want to take too much more time. If there's things specifically pertaining to your club, your situation, I'm happy, again, to get on the phones, exchange emails, do a webinar, whatever's best for you. So hopefully you guys are staying safe and healthy, and I wish you guys all the best. Thank you very much, and have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Candace.
Thank you.